Ephesians 3, verse 18. He says, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know the love of Christ which passeth knowledge, that you might be filled with all the fullness of God. So we're talking about how these dimensions are the dimensions that you'll find in a pyramid, 4 dimensions versus any three-dimensional shape usually only has 3, not 4, because it's 3 dimensions. But God has 4 in this list of measurements here. So this is like the universe. What the Bible says about the universe is that it's like a mountain. That's one description of it. The other description is it's like a garment. He says in Isaiah 51:6, lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment. So there is a garment that looks like a mountain. That's why he uses both those descriptions. The garment that would look like a mountain would be a poncho or a shawl. You put it over your shoulders and it drapes down. That's the same shape a mountain would have. So you see that same description going all the way through the Bible. And now that I'm looking at it, I think we've covered that. So now let's run down. Let's go. We didn't cover that?
We did cover that.
Yeah. Go to Psalms 104. Psalms 104. God wears this garment that he's made, the universe. Psalms 104, verse 2. He says, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretchest out the heavens like a curtain. There's your northern lights. We talked about that. Verse 6. Thou coverest it, the heavens, with the deep as with a garment. So he's using all of these elements that we know as elements of the universe, to him are just clothing. And so we've covered all of that. So I think this is where we need to pick up. The life source of the universe is none other than God. If it were not for God, all the elements would cease to be. He keeps them all living. Look at Acts 20. Acts 20, verse 28. It says, take heed therefore unto yourselves, and to all the flock, over the which the Holy Ghost hath made you overseers, to feed the church of God, which he hath purchased with his own blood. That's a special thing right there. God created all of this stuff. It's all his. Nothing would exist if he decided, I'm pulling back from that one. It would just cease to be. But he says, even of the things that I created, I'm going to go ahead and buy one of them. That means he thinks a lot of it. The church of God, that's you and I. Look at Leviticus 17. Leviticus 17, verse 11. As far as this world is concerned, we are the only ones, because we're here, that give this earth life. It'd be dead outside of us, because we have God in us. And when he's in you, he's life. Everybody else is dead. Leviticus 17:11. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. Okay? He purchased us with his own blood. So the thing that gives you life is God. In 1 John 5:11 he says this, and this is the record that God hath given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. So if his Son wasn't in you, you wouldn't have life. The thing that gives the universe life is because God's in it. If he wasn't there, there wouldn't be a universe. One day he's going to decide, I'm sick of this universe. He says he's going to fold it up. He's going to take his coat, his jacket off like you would at home. He's going to fold it up, put it away. And then it'll cease to exist. Look at 1 John 1:7. 1 John 1:7. 1 John 1:7, he says, but if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another, and the blood of Jesus Christ, his Son, cleanseth us from all sin. If we walk in the light as he's in the light, well, he's in more than just the light. We saw there in Psalm 104 that he's also in darkness. He covers something with darkness. Okay? His throne room is in the light. He's light there. And if you're going to walk in the same place that he abides, the throne room, then you have fellowship with him. And notice you can't have that fellowship outside of the blood. You cannot separate blood from true biblical Christianity. And they're sure trying to do it. It sounds really gory, I know. Too bad. The whole Old Testament was nothing but one sacrifice after the next. And we read it, and it doesn't mean a whole lot. But if you were to actually see it, that would be shocking. I have seen, now this is pagan, but I've seen the Muslims, they do some kind of a sacrifice. They do this thing where they stick the neck of a cow or a calf, and they let it bleed itself. It does. It bleeds itself. And that's some kind of a festival thing they do. And it's very bloody. And I look at that and I'm appalled. But then after having seen that, you go back through and you start reading Leviticus and find out about all those sacrifices they did. It was much like that. Lots of blood everywhere. Okay, that shows you the sacrifice, the payment that was given. That wasn't flippant on God's part. He didn't have to do that. But Jesus Christ really spent something to get us. In 1 John 1:9, he says, if we confess our sins, that's a big if, he's faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Now, you got saved as far as the punishment of eternal damnation has been paid for if you're saved. That's done. You don't have to worry about that one again. But what happens is, just like we still have to take baths, just because you took one doesn't mean you'll never need another one. I wish. But he says here, if you confess your sin, that means you're going to sin. Sorry. There are people that teach sinless perfection. I've heard them. I wish it was so, but it ain't. Really? Yeah. Yeah. It'd be nice. I'd love that, but that's borderline Calvinism. But you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be sinless. One day we will be when we're not in this flesh. The second you touch flesh, it's too powerful an agent for a human to resist all the time. Look at 1 Peter. 1 Peter 2, verse 7. Something strange happened. We talked about the dollar bill last week, and it's got the capstone missing. I mean, it's there, but you can see that it's not attached to the pyramid on your dollar. The head of that pyramid, if we're looking at the universe, is Jesus Christ. He's the head of the corner. And he came to earth one day, and when he did, he was offering man an opportunity for salvation. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 7. Unto you therefore which believe, he is precious. Okay? Some people believed, some didn't. Still the same offer is in effect for a limited time. Just like they say on the TV commercial. For a limited time, if you act now, but wait, there's more. Okay, the same here. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, that's Jesus Christ, the same is made the head of the corner, and a stone of stumbling, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. He says, look, if you're going to be offended by this word, then it's going to do what a stone that falls from heaven does, smashes you. That's what do they call them, a meteor. If a meteor were to hit the earth, I don't ever worry about that. I think if a meteor hit near me, that'd be the last thing I'd have to worry about. It'd be over with. You don't have to worry about getting hurt from them. You get killed from them. Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs 4, verse 19. People hate God and they don't even know why they hate him. They just hate authority. They hate righteousness. It's just innate in our flesh to hate righteousness. Proverbs 4, verse 19, he says, the way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at what they stumble. I know what they're stumbling at. They're stumbling at that rock. Because that rock was purity. You think about this. The Old Testament was God the Father. Okay, that's, how would you picture him? He's a man of war. I'd picture him as the lion of the tribe of Judah. I would picture him as, he's pictured there as a roaring lion. Now the devil mimics that. But also, you've got two other members of the Trinity. What are those other two members? The other two members are Jesus Christ. Okay, what would he be pictured as? A lamb. A lamb slain from the foundation of the earth. How offensive is a lamb? Then you've got the Holy Spirit, which is pictured as a dove. Why would somebody get offended by a lamb and a dove? Okay, if they're going to be offended by a lamb and a dove, you know what follows? The lion. And then it'll be too late. They really should be offended at that point. Deuteronomy chapter 2. Or not Deuteronomy, Daniel chapter 2. Daniel 2, verse 34. Here's what's going to happen. The second time this stone comes to earth, Jesus Christ, he's not coming with an offer. It's not a limited time commercial anymore. It's time is up. Here it is, Daniel 2, verse 34. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, and that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. That's what he's coming back to do. When he comes back the next time, it's not offers, it's anger. Verse 35. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor. That's what he's going to do. He's going to come back and he's going to thresh. He's going to beat things up small. He says, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. It's exactly what he's going to do to this universe one day. He says there's not going to be any place found for it. He's going to eliminate it. Look down at verse 45. 2:45. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Hadn't happened yet, but it's still sure it's going to happen. One day God's going to come back and he's going to repay everybody who offended him. He says there in Matthew that when he comes back, he's going to pull out everything that offended him. People are not worried about offending God. They're worried about offending everybody else. And it's going to be very clear one day. The only person that you should have ever worried about offending was God. Yet people are running around trying not to step on this one's toes, and by doing that, they're offending God. And there's going to be a payment made for that. Matthew chapter 21. Matthew 21, verse 44. You get two comings in this verse. The first coming, we know, was his free will offer. Matthew 21, 44. And whosoever shall fall on this stone shall be broken. That's right. It takes you to have a broken will. I can't do anything on my own. Help me. Okay? That's the first coming. Notice the next one. But on whomsoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. That's the second advent. When he comes back, he's going to be doing some grinding to powder. It's going to be Powder City. Get Luke chapter 20. Luke 20, verse 17. This is a great little passage here. This is Jesus talking about himself. I like those passages where God talks in the Old Testament, and I like them in the New Testament where Jesus pats himself on the back. Those are good passages. Here's one of them. Luke 20, verse 17. And he beheld them and said, What is this then that is written? The stone which the builders rejected, the same has become the head of the corner. He's saying, look at me. I'm the one who has been rejected here. You're supposed to have been reading the scripture. It's been prophesied. Can you not do the math? That's what he's saying. Verse 18. Whosoever shall fall upon that stone shall be broken, but on whomsoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. Have you not been reading your Bible? That's what he's saying. And they knew it. Now they weren't making any applications. Because if they did, they'd have to do something with it. That's the problem. Look at Luke 10. Luke 10, verse 18. He says, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Now, people have a hard time with this verse. And you can take it any way you want to. I'm not going to say you're wrong for taking it any way you decide you want to take it. But I believe what he's saying here. This is Jesus talking. He can see things we can't see. I don't think he's saying that last night I was out there and looking up at the stars and I saw Satan fall down. He's giving you a future event that's going to take place. Just like he did in Matthew 23 and 24. He talks about when you see this happen, then you better do this. Well, that hadn't happened yet, but he's prophesying. In Revelation, he says the testimony of Jesus Christ is the spirit of prophecy. Okay, so he was a prophet. Look at Revelation 12:12. Revelation 12:12. Here's the prophecy I believe that Jesus Christ was talking about in Luke. Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. That's when he comes down. And I believe that's what he's talking about, him falling down as like lightning coming down. Look at Revelation 10. We're in 12. Go back to chapter 10, verse 6. And swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven, and the things that are therein, and the earth, and those things therein that therein are, the sea, and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. That is, there's coming a day that he says time's up. That's when the stone falls. Until then, God's saying, Jesus Christ said it, the prophets said it, all the way through. They said, I can see there's a time coming where the stone is coming down. You know the old nursery rhyme is, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Well, one day it truly is. Something from the sky is going to fall. And people have heard that for years and years, and the ones who enjoy sin enjoy ignoring it. But one day it's going to be too late, and it will be here. Look at 2 Peter. Second Peter 3, verse 7. This whole universe has a regeneration process about to come. 2 Peter 3, verse 7. But the heavens and earth which are now, that's the ones we've got, by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. God's tired of having to wear clothes tainted by ungodly men. This universe. So one day he's going to get rid of the ungodly men, and then he's going to get him a new garment. He's going to get rid of this universe. Look at verse 10. 2 Peter 3:10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away, with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with a fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. He's getting rid of it all. You know, there's something that fire does. Fire in the Bible has two purposes. It either purifies or destroys. It's punishment, the eternal fire, hell. It's a refining fire. In fact, the Word of God is said to have been refined 7 times. Okay, so fire has a good purpose, or it can be a very detrimental purpose. Look at Revelation 20. Revelation 20, verse 11. Here's when it happens. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. Wow. So, here's these people, ungodly men. He says, okay, I'm done with this. We're going to fix this whole thing right here. He gets rid of heaven and earth. There's no place for them to stand. We can't really comprehend that. Because I think of something that's scary to me is an earthquake. Tornado, hurricane, we're used to those. We can run from them. But when the ground starts shaking, when you can't depend on the thing that's supposed to be your foundation, I think that's a problem. He says one day what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate the heaven and the earth, and I'm going to make them stand there by my power and receive punishment from me. Wow. Hebrews chapter 1. Hebrews 1 verse 10. And thou, Lord, in the beginning hast laid the foundations of the earth, and the heavens are the works of thine hands, plural. They shall perish. Wow. Heaven and earth going to perish? Yeah. Even though God made it, if God made it, he can destroy it. And he will. They shall perish, but thou remainest, and they shall wax old as doth a garment. There it is. The universe is pictured as a garment, clothing. Verse 12. And as a vesture shalt thou fold them up, and they shall be changed. He's going to change clothes. But thou art the same, and thy years they fail not. I saw a funny thing. I've been watching this comedian. He walked into the kitchen, and he was knocking on the refrigerator, and his wife said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm trying to be polite. You know, the salad might be dressing." He said, "Do you just barge in there and get you a..." One day, he's going to do some changing. This whole universe is going to be changed. Now, that'll be a great day for us because we'll be around. If this one was marvelous, and it is, can you imagine what the next one's going to be that has no taint of wickedness or sin on it? Ooh, that'll be a day. Look at Proverbs 1. Proverbs 1, verse 23. He says, "Turn ye at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit upon you. I will make known my words unto you, because I have called, and you refused." This is what God's done the whole time through, especially for our age. That's the fulfillment of what he's saying there. If you'll turn to him right now, you can get his spirit. He'll put his spirit in you. But if you refuse, here's what happens, verse 24. "But I have called, and you refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But you've set at naught all my counsels, and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh." That's tribulation. "When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, then distresses and anguish come upon you." And they will. That's tribulation. Now, I can't quite understand that, but he'll be laughing when he comes back at the second advent and Armageddon, when he sees sin being destroyed. Now, that's a purity that we won't have. He's not doing it. It's not a selfishness thing. It's not a human thing that's tainted with sin. We can't laugh at somebody's destruction. we would be taking pleasure in something. Now, he can. He's 100% holiness and purity. And when we come back with him, we'll be like that. We'll be able to do it. There's certain things that we'll be able to do then that you had better not be doing now. For instance, we'll come back and we'll be smiting the wicked. We'll put them in fetters and irons, and we'll stab them with swords and kill them. And he says that's an honor that he gives to all his saints. Now, you better not be doing that now. That'd be wickedness on this side. But there's a day you'll be holy, and just like him, your mind will be different. Acts 17. Acts 17, verse 28. Acts 17:28. He says, "In him we live and move and have our being, as certain of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring." Now, that's a fact. You can't live, move, and have any being, existence, outside of God. Therefore, he must cover it all. He does. He says in Isaiah, I should have put the verse in here. He says, I fill heaven and earth. Well, if he fills it, then he's bigger than it. That means heaven and earth is just something he put on one day. Look at 1 Corinthians 15. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 28. Here's how it winds up. "And when all things shall be subdued unto him, then shall the Son also himself be subject unto him that put all things under him, that God may be all in all." This is a wild thought here. What happens at the end of the millennium? He says he's going to turn it all back over to God. Goes back, the Trinity goes back into one being. Not the millennial saints. In the millennium, God has delivered the kingdom to his Son. And his Son is going to sit on the throne, and he's going to do something. He's going to rule with a rod of iron. That's not in the tribulation. That's in the millennium. He's going to whip people into shape. Literally. Nations. And there will be offspring that are coming up at that point. And so he rules, and once he's perfected everything, there he has the final bout with Satan, destroys sin for its final time. Then Jesus Christ's pleasure is this: you've given me this pleasure, let me give it back to you. And he does. He delivers up the whole kingdom back to God the Father. And then the whole Godhead goes back into one being, just like it always has been, not separated. Right now in this age, where's the Trinity? Well, there's two parts of it in heaven, one part's right here in me. All ages you can find a splitting of that Trinity. But there's coming an age in eternity where it'll no longer be split. And I believe we'll be part of that. If you're one flesh with him, you're married to him, one body, then you'll go back into the Godhead with him. Wild stuff. And let's see. One more verse and we'll be done. Matthew 19. Matthew 19, verse 28. Matthew 19:28. The universe was a clothing. It's a building, workmanship of God's hands. But the universe is only one of those. Matthew 19:28. "And Jesus said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel." He's going to build something new. Now, notice the numbers there. 12 and 12, judging 12. Okay, that's Jewish. That's not Gentile, that's Jewish. That's not body of Christ, that's Jewish. He's talking to the disciples here. So they're going to have a job in eternity. In eternity, there's going to be a responsibility for the 12 tribes to have a judicial position. The millennium in that passage is the regeneration. So in the regeneration, the 12 apostles will be there too, and that's a Jewish thing. He says there, in eternity, You're going to have a job to do. They'll sit on 12 thrones, judging 12 tribes, and those 12 tribes will keep judging. They'll be judging 12 Gentile nations, and it'll keep going out and out and out. And it's like one of those, we used to have them when I was a kid. You look through the little lens and you see all these colors that mesh, and as you turn it, a kaleidoscope? Yeah. That's the way you feel as you look down through time and you see how God's going to make it all move together. It just keeps building and growing, and 12 turns into another 12 and another 12, and it just keeps populating and multiplying. He says the increase of his kingdom, there will be no end.